everybody, it's Lesley Dale and Ellis Smith. We've been driving around, it's not funny, we've been driving around for a while now on Fox Mountain. We're in Dade County. There are a lot of fires going on around in the region today. We were at Signal Mountain earlier, but really you just have to take a look at what's going on here because this is the largest, about 22 acres. 2,200 acres, excuse me. Look at this, it's pretty gnarly behind us right here. All this is scorched.
Yeah, you can see this.
Says it all. We've
been driving around, we've been seeing little embers still burning, smoke still coming out of the grass. We were following some forestry trucks up here. This whole area, you can see they've been I don't know if they've been burning this in an attempt to contain the fire or if this was just part of the fire up here, but there's huge, plumes of smoke over in this direction, but we wanted you to kind of see, to get an idea of what it looks like after a fire comes through. You get the trees, everything's just scorched, and now the helicopters are flying around. One was just overhead earlier. I'm not seeing them dumping water, but they are kind of checking out the blaze. There's a really smoky part right over here, and I thought maybe we could walk over there and take a look at it. We're not in the best vantage point, but why don't we? Yeah, so driving up the mountain, you can just tell how incredibly dry everything is. And the forestry guys are in a rush. There's no way we could have kept up with them, but we're just trying to explore to show you guys what's going on. And then we did see along the way a lot of just fires, smoke starting themselves, it seemed. Just little patches of smoke everywhere. And then when we were driving up the interstate to get up Fox Mountain here, you could see tons of flames. So we're going to try to give you a view of all of that as much as we can. But as far as finding, I'm sure there's several emergency people out here. They're far up the mountain. We haven't been able to catch up with them. Yeah, okay. You can see the edge of the fire still burning down here. Yeah, you can see a little bit, and you can see quite a bit of smoke in the air. I don't know if you can see it on the camera behind Lesley, but just on the other side of those trees, we drove around in cow pastures and on dirt roads and sometimes through roads that were not roads. Back there, there's not a really great way to get to it. If you do want to see it, don't come up here. This is instead, just going to Rising Fawn, and you can pretty much see the mountain from there. You can see it from the interstate.
From the interstate, it's just tons of smoke.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So we obviously know that this is not under control yet, as it appears not to be under control yet. So we're checking in. The guys at our newsroom are checking in and figuring out from emergency services and the sheriff's department, everything in Dade County, what status they're at. So as soon as we know, we're going to let you know. Ellis and I are just trying to show what's going on at this point, and that's why we're driving around Fox Mountain. But you can see, if you guys can see behind me, you can see some of the smoke coming up. But that view over there of that scorched area just says it all about how bad it is up here. So again, we said 2,200 acres. Now we're going to compare that to what's going on Signal Mountain in Chattanooga. That was up to 150, right? So yeah. I mean, that's
but that one they say is really, it's pretty much under control. They have the they've cut quite a bit, and we're on a little bit of an incline here. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
They've cut quite a bit around the fire to stop it from spreading either up or down, and now they're just kind of managing the sides.
So here we're interested to see, what is going on, how they're trying to contain this, what they're telling anybody who has residents around here. So we're working on that for you. Like I said, our reporters, and we've put in some calls. So we'll let you know, and keep checking our website, times3press.com. And we're going to continue. Our car is actually running on very little or no gas. So we're going to try to make it down, and we're going to show you that view from the interstate we were talking about. And as soon as we get more information in, just keep checking the website and our Facebook page. But I do want to walk back over, if you're just checking in right now, to show you that area. We saw this area of just massive scorched land as we were driving up trying to follow those forestry guys, but it just speaks for itself, really, about the nature of what's going on up here.
And again, this is just a small portion of the burned area up here near Fox Mountain.
Again, 2,200 acres.
Yeah, that we've seen with our own eyes. That's areas where the fire's not currently burning. There's still a huge area where it is still burning. So this is just one little piece, but it gives you an idea of maybe what the rest of it looks like.
So, like we talked to the Tennessee Forestry people earlier on Signal Mountain, they were telling us, as I'm sure the Georgia Forestry Department people would say too, if Mother Nature would just step in, that would be the greatest defense. Obviously, rain, but nobody really foresees the amount of rain that they need, several inches, to really help at this point. So they're using all the other measures. We talked to Shannon Gann at the Forestry Department of Tennessee. She was saying, putting fires out with fires, creating lines, as Ellis mentioned, and other techniques. And if you want to go back on our Facebook page, she went through it all. The training, how they put out these fires. It's pretty interesting for somebody like me who doesn't have a forestry background. Ellis actually does, though, so he can mention a little bit more of that if you haven't caught that. And I didn't know this about him. He has a forestry background.
I helped pay my way through college. Thanks, Kathy Black, by the way, my boss back 10 years ago. But one of the things we would do is they have a device called a drip torch, and it's literally 2/3 diesel fuel, 1/3 gasoline. Don't try this at home.
No.
And maybe some other magic. And you light the tip of it, and you create a line of fire. But the difference is, with a controlled burn, you've actually gone ahead and you've used a heavy piece of machinery, perhaps like this one right here, and you've already created a break. So when the fire reaches a certain point, it's just all dirt and there's really nothing for it to burn. So that's one of the ways that a lot of landowners, when they have a lot of forest with a lot of trees that the leaves are just building up year over year over year, they'll go through and actually do a controlled burn, or they'll work with the Forestry Commission to do a controlled burn. And so what some of them are doing is, along the side of their property, a lot of times where they have roads like this, they are actually doing, and don't try this at home, for sure, but they are doing little controlled burns to try to reduce the amount of fuel for that fire. Once you deprive a fire of fuel, it's going to go out. So you can see here, this area is already burned. It's probably not going to burn again. There's really nothing there for it to burn. So we're seeing patches like this all up and down the mountain, and we're hoping. We're also seeing some stuff that's still on fire. The Forestry Commission officials that we saw driving around were moving very fast. They were definitely in a rush. We're still waiting for more information. Judy Walton, one of our best reporters, is working on that.
She's trying to call us.
She's trying to call us. Hey, Judy, how's it going?
So, hold on.
I'm told to hold on. But anyway, but you can take a look at this again, and there's a lot of that going on here. And again, that's just very dry temperatures. The humidity has been very low. There hasn't been a lot of rain. We're told because of the hurricane in the southeast, that kind of sucked a lot of the moisture up.
Hey, Judy. Hey, we have Judy on the phone, one of our reporters. And who have you been talking to? We were driving around, literally just showing people what we see, but we wanted to tell the viewers some information. So what do you have?
I've talked to the
Georgia Forestry Commission, yeah.
I spoke to someone named
Joanna Warren with the Georgia Forestry Commission.
said that the Fox Mountain fire is 1,700 acres and growing.
Okay, 1,700 acres, you guys, is what they're reporting, and growing.
That's just the Fox Mountain fire.
Fox Mountain fire.
He said that it could get 1,800 acres before all
Okay. So what status are with controlling everything?
It's about 40%
40%
contained.
contained.
But they do expect it to get bigger.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
They do.
There's about 70 people there.
70 people, crews on bulldozers, like we showed you. 70 people helping. 70 people, crews on bulldozers. We've seen the helicopters up in the air, and just like it's incredibly dry. We've seen some small patches burning naturally on their own, and then we've seen tons of smoke as we were approaching the Rising Fawn area and Fox Mountain on the interstate. Anything else she had to say?
But all right, I'll check in with you. All right, bye.
Okay. People using hand tools even as well as the bulldozers to create the containment lines.
Again, that's because of a lot of the altitude, the steepness that we're seeing on a lot of these. You can't get bulldozers up the hill, they would tip over.
Yeah. Okay. She said the wind has died down, but there is still wind coming off down the mountain.
And she said that the fire has spread into Alabama and that they are working with Alabama Forestry Commission.
The fire has spread into Alabama, and they're working with the Alabama Forestry Commission.
And we were actually at the top of the mountain. We actually passed into Alabama. So with this mountain sits right at the border of Georgia and Alabama.
Hold on one second, Judy. Again, with who else? What other agency is working on this? Georgia's Department of Natural Resources and the U.S. Forestry, Forest Service. So there's a lot of hands on deck here. Okay. So 40% at this point contained Fox Mountain, correct? Okay. 2 cabins threatened on the Georgia side.
Which is where we are.
Which is where we are. And there's a hunting camp and how many homes on the Alabama side? 8 homes. Okay. She said they are considered threatened, but that does not mean they're in imminent danger, which is kind of hard to understand.
If the fire is not contained, it could eventually reach them, I think.
Okay. So like if the wind changes, they could be in imminent
Right.
danger, but right now they're not.
Yeah,
It's
not.
threatening. Okay. No evacuations. They're just monitoring those properties that we mentioned. Okay. Okay, is that what we have so far? Okay, the quote is, again, tell me who this quote is from so we can tell people who are just tuning in right now. Joanna Warren, Public Affairs Specialist, Communications for Georgia Forestry Commission, and the quote she said was, this is to our reporter at the TFP, Judy Walton. The quote is from Georgia Forestry. We are really going to be fighting this fire until we get some significant rain. So that's what we've been talking about. Also with the Tennessee Forestry folks in Signal Mountain, they said that would be what we really need. That would be our best defense, is Mother Nature. Are you listening? Yeah, well, it's good to hear that so many hands are on deck in all these different areas that we've been to today. Signal Mountain, which is much smaller, 150 acres, to this, as they're reporting right now, 1,700, and is rising here, Fox Mountain. So much different situation, but a lot of hands on deck in both situations. And they seem, as far as these PIO type people, or service, there's so many different names of all these public affairs people, but they seem confident, or they're telling people that they have it under control, even though this one, like we mentioned, is only 40% contained
So
at this
technically
point.
not under control. That's less than half.
I mean,
Let's be real.
Yeah. Okay, Dade County, Georgia Sheriff. Okay, Dade County, Georgia Sheriff says they have not been asked for assistance. I wonder why.
Well, it's the early stages.
His name is Ray. What's his last name? Cross. Okay. Why haven't they been asked for assistance? Do we know? He's all right. Okay, so he said he has contacted the Georgia Forestry Commission, correct? This is Dade County Sheriff. He's saying he's contacted them a few times, and they said they don't need that help yet. So.
And I guess that's the difference between threatened and imminent danger. If there's an imminent danger, then that would be something.
That's the explanation, as Ellis mentioned. Okay. Well, continue to call me and update us, and we'll be still driving around, giving people a view of what we see.
Yeah, that's reporter Judy Walton, who's
Thanks,
helping
Judy.
us out. She's calling, making calls back at the home base.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll be careful. Bye.
So just to recap, we've been saying 2,200 acres. They've got different ways of measuring these things. They're saying now it looks like it's 1,700 acres that's growing.
Yeah. They said growing onwards.
It could
up
grow to
to
18,
yeah.
1900 or whatever.
Right.
So 2,200 acres may have been an early estimate, whereas now they're trying to pinpoint it. We were talking to some of the people at the Signal Mountain fire, which is closer to 150 acres, and they were saying they do have some pretty complicated GPS algorithms where they can draw a little, even though with the slope of the mountains, they can still pretty much pinpoint how much acreage is threatened. It just takes them a minute to kind of get it all plugged in and figure out where the limits of the fire are. And we've seen some helicopters flying around and doing just that. So she said that we have some cabins, some hunting cabins, some lodges that are threatened,
Some homes,
but not in
and
danger.
it's gone into Alabama.
Yeah, it has gone into Alabama. We're right at the border here between Georgia and Alabama. So Alabama's that way. I could probably, with a pretty good slingshot, I could probably throw one of these rocks over there.
Smoke over there too. Can you see
Yeah,
that?
and we're seeing smoke start and stop spontaneously. It is so dry that some of the areas where when we drove past them at one point and there was nothing burning, on our way back, the fire had sort of kicked back up again, and the smoke was starting to come out of some of these areas. So even things that are out technically, that are safe, you may still see some smoke. Obviously, if you see that dark billowing smoke, that means there's a little something more going on there.
I'm just glad at this point we haven't seen any homes or any.
Yeah, this is all very wild here. We saw, there's a farm. There's some cows that are hanging out. Cows are safe. They were in the shade, laying down, enjoying themselves, having a great day.
It's actually really beautiful.
It's gorgeous
up here, but
smells like
not
smoke,
a good
though.
situation. Yeah.
So
but, I mean, look at that. It's crazy.
So they're. It sounds like they haven't done all they haven't got the sheriff. It's not an all hands on deck situation yet, because
there's lots of hands on deck, but not all hands on deck if they haven't called in the sheriff's department here.
They're not evacuating anyone.
And we also heard from WRES, which is Walden Ridge Emergency Services. We've been talking to them too on Signal Mountain. Another fire in Walker County, Georgia, like near Lafayette, we heard mentioned. So we're trying to call and get all the information for you guys. So again, I keep stressing to just check the website and to look back on Facebook, and we've been talking to the officials who are really working on all this to tell you what's going on. And what we're doing out here is trying to show you what we see. So we're going to continue. It's just really dry.
That. Don't burn anything. Don't start a fire. Don't throw your cigarette out the window. That's why they have the ashtrays in the cars, so that you can put it out there. So it's super dry, guys. So it's just be very careful. But as far as this fire, everybody at present is safe. No injuries reported. No homes burning down.
That's the good news.
It's just an enormous fire. Luckily, in the middle of nowhere, sort of in the middle of nowhere.
Sort of. So, but we're going to keep on track of those homes and hunting lodges and everything that are threatened, but currently, at this moment, not in imminent danger. But the winds are what play the factor in that. And also,
if
the lack of rain.
If there's no rain, they're gonna. What did they say? They're gonna have to keep fighting this fire until it rains. This is such a big fire, and it is so dry, and it's gotten so hot, and there's so much fuel that this thing is going to keep burning. The mountain, as she was pointing out, they can't even get bulldozers in some of these areas, so they're using hand tools. Yeah, they've got guys with rakes and spades trying to build lines that are thick enough to keep the fire out. But as they found out on Signal Mountain, the fire will keep jumping those lines. It's really hard to create them where they're wide enough.
Get ahead of it.
Because when you get a gust of wind, what happens is it picks up all those embers and it picks up all those sparks, and they fly up into the air, still burning, and they land on the other side.
And he does have a forestry background. He really does, so he can be giving you an educated explanation of all this.
And it's probably disheartening, because if you've been working out there all day, digging on your hands and knees, and then you see a big clump of burning,
so
embers go.
70 people working right now here, Fox Mountain. So we're going to continue to drive around, and if you guys want to go back on the Facebook page, we explain pretty much any question I think that one would have about this. So just go back, and if you want to post any more questions, we'll try to answer them. We're going to continue driving. I think we're kind of like in the middle.
We're probably where we shouldn't be.
Okay.
No, we're in a very, it seems like a very safe area here. It seems like the fire has already passed through or around this area. There's still, as I said, some burning embers. There's some forestry personnel, but it seems to be spreading to the north of us where we are. So we're a little to the south of the fire, and again, it's also heading toward Alabama. So if you're on the Alabama side, keep a lookout for that smoke.
You can see down there too. You see all the charred ground over here.
Yeah, it's you can see it's just, and these things are they're just kind of starting and stopping. So you can see there, you've got a bunch of charring and all this got burned. Some of the bushes were too green to burn, it looks like, but a lot of over here, a lot of this was really dry, and so that got burned quite a bit. So we'll head out and
yeah, we're gonna get in the car again, which has very little fuel, so fingers crossed. We'll be okay though. So we're just gonna keep showing you what we're showing, and like I said, the view is just driving from the interstate, just full of smoke. So we're gonna show you that too, and we're gonna continue, to touch base with officials and the people who are actually working on this to get that accurate information out to you always, because that's what's important. So we'll be back. Hey guys, I'm talking to these nice folks who don't want to talk on camera. We're in Rising Fawn right now, but we're trying to talk to people. If you can see behind me, this is pretty much what says it all, what we've been telling you we're looking at here. Okay, so we just talked to Georgia Forestry Department. They say what they're preparing for is the wind. You see right now, I can see it's blowing toward the south. They're preparing for a 180-degree shift. So as it goes right now, 40% of this is contained on Fox Mountain. There's about 70 people working on it, but the wind is the big issue and the lack of rain. So Ellis, digital editor, is going to step in with us. He actually knew some of the forestry guys because he worked in the Georgia Forestry Department when he was in college. So there was just a connection made. We stopped and actually talked to the crews, and they're working hard. What they're doing is using hand tools in addition to bulldozers to try to reinforce those lines, preparing for this shift of wind. Again, we're in Rising Fawn, standing here right now next to this Church of God that's being built. Actually, thanks for letting us set up here. We always ask permission, or we're supposed to. But you can see, again, this nice gentleman here told us at night you can actually see the flames, and it looks like a glow, and it's been going on for about a week. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they've already actually, we did confirm with the Georgia Forestry Commission. We were talking earlier about how what they like to do is they'll go do a controlled burn and try to cut a nice wide break so that the fire doesn't continue in that direction. And they did that previously here on the south side of Fox Mountain, and then they moved on to the north side to try to stop the fire going over there. But they're returning to the south side here because they are, as Lesley said, the wind is going to shift. It's going to blow it back over here, so they're coming back to kind of reinforce this line, as they say. And we saw them bringing in a number of heavy bulldozers, pulling trenchers behind them. And what that'll do is actually, because a lot of the roots and there's all sorts of fallen trees and debris and leaves built up over many layers, and that trencher will actually cut deep down into the soil and throw all that off to the side, and it'll make a hard break that the fire can't cross. So they're up there. They've got a water truck up there. A bunch of guys who look like they've been working for a while. Yeah, pretty busy, pretty sweaty,
Thanks
really
for
dirty,
talking
sooty.
to us.
Great guys, and yeah, one of them we did have a mutual acquaintance, but but they're working real hard, and they're liable to continue working really hard.
And we also, our reporter back in the newsroom, Judy Walton, we're speaking with everybody, the public affairs person, Joanna with Georgia Forestry, and she said there are some homes in Alabama that are threatened but not in imminent danger.
And that's on the
right
other
now.
side
That's
of the
on
mountain. We're looking at the Georgia
The
side. Alabama
Georgia
border
side
runs basically kind of perpendicular to where we are here. It's
and
basically
the
running
Georgia
behind
side,
us.
she did say there were some cabins that they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, no imminent danger, but that could turn. So they're watching those closely. And the reason they say they're threatened is, because of
the fire. If nobody did anything and everybody went home, the fire could eventually get over there. But if
and
they
the
are,
wind is a huge factor.
Yeah, but they are doing stuff. So right now, they think they can contain it. Again, it's 40% contained. That's less than half. But they kind of choose their battles when they're doing this. So they don't. Again, when you've got 1,700 acres, 1,800 acres, 1,900 acres on fire, 1,700
currently. That's 30 minutes ago when we checked, but she said it's growing.
But that's literally for 70 guys, and it's impossible to do all of that. So what you do is you say, okay, we'll block it off over here, and then we'll block it off over here, and almost like building a dam, and try to limit the fire's options.
Yeah, you can literally see when you're out here. We've been driving up and down and around the mountain for almost 2 hours now. You can see the black charred areas that are obviously man-made lines versus some of the the fires that just started on their own. You can kind of tell a difference. And then there are some areas that, like the forestry guys said, are both.
Yeah.
And we showed some of those areas to you earlier on our Facebook page. If you want to go back and look at those, they pretty much speak for themselves about what's going on here and just how freaking dry it is everywhere.
Really dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see that in the leaves, everywhere.
Yeah, they are definitely pulling all the tricks they know. And again, this isn't the only fire going on. It's so dry across this region. So these guys are spread pretty thin. We know the Georgia Forestry Commission had to borrow some sort of, was it a helicopter they had to borrow from the people up in Tennessee? And so then
everybody's working together.
So the people up in Tennessee had to go to the National Guard to get some Black Hawk helicopters. So everybody's kind of sharing equipment and working really hard.
Lots of different agencies. But what is interesting, our reporter at the TFP, Judy Walton, said the Dade County Sheriff, Cross, said it's kind of odd to him that they haven't called for assistance yet. And he has contacted Georgia Forestry. So, usually they're going to contact the sheriff's department if they feel like it's totally out of control, but they are saying it is dangerous. So we're going to follow up on that. I always am like, why aren't all agencies out here if they want to help?
Yeah.
Well,
I think they want to save that trump card for when they really need it.
Trump card.
If you have everybody working all the time,
right,
then everybody, when you really have an emergency, then everybody's exhausted.
That's a good point.
So I think they're kind of trying to conserve. They're holding it back. They're battling it. I think really hoping for rain. And then if things do kind of get worse, then they do have the sheriff's deputies will be rested and they can call them out to come augment their force and evacuate people if necessary or dig more ditches, whatever the case may be. But again, we're not there yet. That's not, they're not saying that.
And I'm sure the Sheriff Cross we mentioned is going to continue to be in contact with them. So I can hear a helicopter again somewhere.
Yeah, the helicopters have been. I haven't seen the buckets attached to the bottom of the helicopters.
And we did see the buckets on Signal Mountain.
On Signal Mountain, they're using but these
this is a totally different situation, though.
Exploring,
a lot bigger.
I think mapping and really keeping an eye on where the fire is and where it's spreading, and really just trying to have eyes on it so they can coordinate from the sky. When you're in these woods, as we were
let's
earlier,
walk around.
It was really hard to figure out where we were in relation to the fire, and so you get a little bit of tunnel vision.
Get a little bit lost.
You
we
literally
were a little bit lost.
To use a phrase, you cannot see the forest for the trees because you're stuck in the middle of all these trees. So having an eye in the sky is definitely useful for these guys as they're trying to figure out where the fire's going, where has it been, and where do they need to kind of reinforce their line.
So luckily we didn't get stuck in the middle of all of that. Okay, let's see what kind of view we have back here. Exhibit it closer.
Yeah, you can see we're right here at the forest edge. You can see the
Rising Fawn,
the smoke
Mountain
above it. And this is again, thanks to the Church of God for letting us be on their land. But you can see the smoke kind of billowing out from behind the trees there. And again, it's been pretty much like this all day. But there are a lot of people back in those woods digging trenches, and this is what they do. This is what they train for. It's really dangerous, really hard work. I mean, it's just dangerous to be out here. Just the roads themselves, in cases where the roads even exist, are not really well maintained. They're really mountain roads, and so just getting out of the truck, you run a risk. But these guys train for it, and they really like it. In the end, I mean, it's something that, when you train to do something, you do want to have a chance to go exercise those muscles.
And everywhere where we've covered today, from Signal Mountain to here, and we also have reports of a fire in Walker County, Lafayette. So we're getting all these reports in. Everybody is evidently working as hard as they can and just, going home, returning the next morning. That's what we're hearing as soon as they can. And we want to thank Shannon Gann with Tennessee Forestry we talked to at Signal Mountain earlier. If you want an update on that, we have that. If you scroll down on our Facebook page, but comparatively, that is 150 acres compared to this 1,700 Fox Mountain. We're in the Rising Fawn area right now and growing. So big difference, and we'll check on the Walker County one as well. And then we asked questions to these forestry officials about Signal Mountain specifically. How did it start? They're investigating that. So we've been trying to ask all the questions that you may want to have answers to. So continue to post and continue to watch us. And this is the view you see from the interstate if you were to be driving in this direction. But I mean, you see this probably, times 10. There's just like pockets of smoke like that you see. So it looks really concerning, but The good news is from Georgia Forestry that there aren't a lot of homes up there. So Georgia, I think they said, if I'm correct, I think 2 cabins threatened, and then on the Alabama side, hunting lodge and I think 8 homes is what they said from the Georgia Forestry Department. So, you know, Signal Mountain, there are so many homes up there and a lot of people concerned, but that fire, she said, right now, no evacuation Signal Mountain, and not up here either. So we, you know, want to keep you at ease as you should be, but if there is imminent danger or threats, we're going to let you know about that.
Push notifications.
As well.
Yeah, we'll have
Yeah.
push notifications.
We'll have push notifications.
So
for
sign
you.
up for those. You can get our app on the Google App Store or on the Play Store. The Apple App Store or the Play Store, and we'll sign up for push notifications. And if there is something where it's a real emergency, something like that, we will definitely have that news on our app.
And, you know, we'll be honest, talking to the Georgia Forestry guys who are working right now, they are concerned about that wind. So 180-degree shift. So right now blowing to the south. They're preparing for that to happen tomorrow. So they're trying to do the best they can to resecure those lines and just prepare for that big shift of wind. And then with the lack of rain, it's a problem. It's dangerous. They're admitting that. So that's where we're at with this. And you can see what we're looking at. Okay. See you guys later. See you at 11 or earlier.